Now guys, if your stoep veranda is anything like mine, it gets used more than the lounge. True story. This is where we spend time, the dogs are here. So you saw the before. Yeah, a little bit brown. So what better time for spring, being here, to get into areas that really just need a good cleanup, a little kind of zhuzhing up, as we call it, a mini makeover. We don't get many opportunities to actually take everything off and give it a good clean. So we're trying out, for this exact purpose, the new gadgets from Gardena. The one is their battery-operated blower and their Aqua Clean, which is a pressure sprayer, but without like the box thing. Going to be phenomenal. This 18-volt battery-operated pressure sprayer offers 3 different spraying strengths, ranging from 9 to 24 bars of pressure. Using a battery-operated pressure sprayer means you can clean just about anywhere. Simply use a bucket and submerge the filtered suction hose into it to start cleaning. For clear water rinsing, simply connect the suction hose to a hose pipe or directly to the nearest tap. It's easy and super efficient. Depending on the spray mode strength you select, the rechargeable battery will run between 16 and 38 minutes. Well, after popping the furniture back in, and the rug, and working with some of these lovely stands that actually hold the plants up, it does turn this area so much into just a beautiful space. It's lighter somehow, and I guess that really pays tribute to the type of furnishings that have been used. They are slightly smaller than what was here before. The lighter colors work beautifully to really draw your eye in. And what I do love the most out of probably everything here is the table. Now the table, guys, the table is actually an old door that we got from a second-hand shop. It's an old door, 6 legs that you can pick up at a hardware store, screwed in. I mean, isn't it fab? And then of course, what works is that we're surrounded by plants. And I know you've been into homes where there's maybe just a plastic plant. Not enough of this. As plant parents, as Gen Z, whoever you are, and even if you're a gogo, we need to have these beautiful plants around us because they lift the spirits. They add value to our spaces and they help with our minds. But let's take a closer look at what I've put in here and how we're going to look after them. All right, guys. Number 1, 3 instead of 1. 2, not really. 3 works. Kalanchoe, killer plant, tough as nails. You find them all over at every garden centre. Guys, most importantly, do not overwater it. If you overwater it, it's really not going to be happy. Allow the plant to dry out completely before re-watering. And because it's gonna, feel it. Its leaf is quite fleshy and succulenty. It's actually very thick. It's about 5 mils thick. It's very, very thick and fleshy. So it tells you immediately that it's storing a lot of water. So don't go overwatering it because then it will rot. Quite a bit of light. When we're talking quite a bit of light, what do I mean? I'm meaning 5 to 8 hours of good sunlight. That will do the trick. This will last 4 to 6 weeks doing its thing. And when it's finished flowering, you just cut off the flowers and you can pop it into a spot around the home or even further on the patio and give it some good food and allow it to come back into flower again, because that's what they do. You can even plant these straight into the garden. Now, this is a beauty. It's called a calathea. Why are these so popular? Well, the calatheas come from the jungles. Immediately, what are we saying? They love hot, humid conditions. They are known for their beautiful markings. And this is what attracts us to these amazing plants. So the thing about these guys is, obviously, we know they need a lot of light, but most importantly, allow them to drain very well before your next watering. So what would that be as an indication? Well, allow the top 2 centimeters of the soil to dry out. So in other words, when you pop your finger in here, it must be dry before your next watering. Now, calatheas are also known as the prayer plants. And this is probably what makes us so attracted to them, besides their colorful leaves. And they're known as prayer plants because there's a process that happens through water pressure in its cells and in the nodes of the plant. It's called nastinity. Now, very funny word, fancy word, but what it basically means is that these leaves open during the day and they close in the night. They move. And that is what makes them so attractive and so unreal, really. And that is why they are called the prayer plants, because their leaves then close. Quite fascinating. Anyway, on our left, we've got a real little stalwart. This is a peperomia. We know that these are fur friendly. You could chomp this, and so could your fur kid. So for dogs and cats, they do get hold of this guy, it's okay. Tough as nails, can do in quite low light as well as high light, and very easy to look after, folks. Allowed to dry out, once again, because it's quite thick, almost fleshy leaf, allowed to dry out well before re-watering. And here we're looking at kind of 3 that you can really rely on. Okay guys, so if you're a plant murderer, if you just had no luck with indoor plants, then this is the baby for you. It's part of a very big genus of plants called Monsteras. And there are many different forms of the Monsteras. And it's also commonly known as the cheese plant. And we kind of get why it's called the cheese plant. You see, it's got the holes. They originate from southern Mexico near Panama. Okay, so we're thinking heat, hot, tropical. They really do need quite a lot of light. So 5 to 8 hours of light a day, very necessary. But the reason why they are so easy to look after is because you really only have to water this plant possibly every 14 days. That's it, okay? Allow it to dry out before you re-water. An interesting thing about Monsteras, and some of you might actually have experienced this, that if you are playing with the leaves or if you've been working with the plant, I do advise that you do wash your hands, because some people, although not all, actually do get a slight irritation from it, especially if you touch your tongue or your lips. It almost goes numb. Yeah, there's an alkaloid of sorts that's on the leaves. So don't go eating them and don't go licking the cheese, but do wash your hands afterwards. But a spectacular houseplant that can get really quite big, a meter by meter, or they can be little nunus like this, depending, of course, on the size pot that you restrict them in. And importantly, if you can, give it a misting. Give it a misting every now and then. You know, have one of these little gadgets around. And by giving it a misting, what you're doing is increasing the humidity, creating those rainforest conditions which this plant loves. Happy plant, happy me.